Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, as well as the Northwest Florida Fishing Report, the first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I'm Joe Baya, teaming up with my partner in crime, Butch Theory, again this week, and we got a special guest, Captain Richard Rutland, joining us as well. And we're doing something a little bit different in the beginning this week, guys. We're going to be doing a joint offshore report, and I'm excited about this because we've got Delynn Sigler, who's a charter for hire captain, and he will bring you out on your boat and show you how to be more successful offshore. And he does that from Orange Beach, Alabama, all the way to Destin, Florida. So I'm really excited to talk to Delynn and learn about the differences in the nuance between Orange Beach and Destin and how things change as we go from Alabama to Florida. But before we get there, guys, it's great to be back.
Been a while, man. Been a while. You and I hadn't recorded together for a while. What you guys been doing over there in Northwest Florida?
I don't know. We were, right before we were doing this show, we were putting together a flounder special that's going to be coming up here with Captain Richard. And I'll tell you one thing they do over here. They call fish different stuff than what we do in Alabama.
Oh, yeah. A lot of things have different names.
Right.
Yeah. So you mean they call them? Well, I guess you did tell us some funny names. They call pinfish and beeliners and all that. But we call funny stuff over here too, right? Blackfish, lang. Who knows what that is, right?
I love that about fishing. No matter where you go in the country, it can be just a few miles difference, and there is a difference in the nomenclature for fish. I mean,
oh yeah. Even us here in Alabama, you go to Mississippi, it's not a ling or a cobia over there. It's a lemon fish, in Louisiana, same thing. Yeah. Man, I love all the little names that everybody has for all the little, I guess maybe regional specific names that people have for the fish. I think it's cool to kind of to hear all of it.
When I moved to Virginia, it took me years to figure out what a cobia and a fluke was. A fluke.
And I love how it's like turf war. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, that's not that's not a ling. That's not a ling. It is a cobia. We are in Florida,
Right. Well, so on the business side of what we do a lot of, search engine analysis. So it's always funny to me to see what people are Googling, because you can tell where they're from. This guy's like, how to catch fluke, best bait for fluke, oh, okay, well, I wonder where that guy is. Same thing on the hunting side too. You can always tell when it's a Southern guy Googling. A guy from New York, he's going to say, what is the best climbing tree stand? And a guy from Alabama is like, what's the best climber?
Where that climber at?
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. So what's your favorite fish name that I would say is regional specific? I've got one in mind.
Man, that's tough.
For me, it's the hog choker.
The hog choker.
You ever seen a hog choker?
No, sir.
Yeah, so if you pull a shrimp net, you will catch a hog choker. It's a little flounder. It's not a southern flounder. It's like this little flounder. It's got kind of like almost like looks like stripes on it, and they're super
cost a soul.
It's a soul.
Souls.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it has a real name, but when you pour those things out in a sorting box, you can't hardly pick them up off the table. I mean, they are sucked down.
They suck down, yeah.
And the story I always heard was that back in the day, they would take the bycatch from the shrimp nets and they'd feed it to hogs, and that particular flounder could choke a hog. Now,
makes sense.
I haven't witnessed it.
Now that you talk about that, I do know another nickname for that as well. I don't think we could talk about it right here.
Probably not.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. You guys can message me and I'll tell you what it is.
Oh man, well, I've missed you guys, but I still get back to Alabama and do some fishing with you guys and with Dad down on the island. So it's good to have y'all back on. Richard, you're very involved with the Mobile JCs and the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo. I understand you guys, you had a lot of challenges this year to overcome with COVID-19, but I understand y'all had a successful tournament. How did it go, man? Give us a wrap up.
Man, I tell you what, I am just I'm tickled to death of how well everything went. And first, before I get to anything about what happened at the rodeo, I really, really, really want to thank all of our anglers who came out and supported us and made it possible. Like we make it possible on our end, but we're nothing without you guys, without for you listeners who are anglers in the tournament. We were absolutely, we're nothing without y'all. So I really, really, really want to thank everybody who bought a ticket, came to the scales, some way, shape, or form supported us, all of our sponsors who couldn't come on site. We still had, we didn't have like great sponsorship. A lot of people had to drop out, which is very understandable. But for you guys who yeah, it is. For everybody who supported us, I really want to put out a huge thank you to everybody, because it was just from the fishing side of everything, from like putting on a tournament, it was unbelievable.
Huge success with
we were only down.
At hand.
Yeah, we were only down from last year, which last year we set a record by a landslide. We were only down about 300 tickets from that.
That's incredible to me.
And man, I just couldn't imagine if we'd had red snapper as a category. But so that was incredible. Spectator, we try to do. It's kind of funny. We're always trying to do everything we can to bring spectators in. And this year we had to do everything we could to keep spectators away. So no fish tank, no bands, no sponsor tent, no selling food or booze or anything like that. So
and to have a turnout like that is still incredible to me.
It is, and it was cool because it's pretty much just anglers the whole time. It was not a ton of spectators that showed up.
No fluff.
That's right.
Straight up fishing tournament with some anglers.
That's right. Man, it was amazing how smoothly our weigh station ran. A big shout out to my wife. She is also a JC and was a vice president this year. She's a vice president of the weigh station. She and all of her weigh station girls, as we like to call them, absolutely ran that thing like a well-oiled machine. It sounded like a sewing machine in there. You know what I mean? It was just like way. We're just weighing fish away.
I see what Katie does to you, whips you in shape. So if Katie is involved, it is going to be on point.
Oh yeah, you're right about that.
She keeps you straight. She can keep anything straight.
You got the you know Hugh.
That's right.
Hugh. Right. Man, it was incredible to watch. It was a lot of fun for us as JCs because we usually have a zillion distractions down there. Like I said, music and booze and sponsors and this, that, and the other. And we got to focus on fishing this year. Yeah. It was really neat. The one species that really stood out to me this year was swordfish.
I saw a couple nice ones weighed in.
I think I strung them all up on the scale, and I think I weighed – it was in between 7 and 9. I want to say it was 7 or 8. We could have weighed 9 in, but we had one. I think the winner was like 191, and we had like a 161 and like a 150 something. I mean, we had some like really, really nice.
Let me tell you something about swordfish.
Oh, here comes Joe.
Come on now.
What you got?
You get a swordfish over 150 pounds, that's a bad dude. I mean, that is a bad dude. It's pound for pound. It is the baddest fish in the Gulf that I've experienced. I mean,
I would agree with that.
Bad fish.
I got to hear a couple of the stories. A friend of mine, Todd Kircher, they caught one on his boat that was, I want to say, the third place fish, the 150 something pound. I don't remember all the exact weights. They fought their fish for 7 hours.
Wow.
Hooked up at like
150 pounds. Think about that.
Yeah. Hooked up at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and like didn't get the fish in the boat till well after dark and didn't get home, like had to ride home in the dark after that,
Butch and I just booked our trip with Captain Adam Peoples, One Shot Charters over here in Destin, Richard.
Really?
You want to
Yes,
go?
sir.
Man, it's a big bucket list fish for me.
Have to see if you're booked up that
night.
Nah,
I ain't going on a charter to catch one. I'm going to catch one on the bay boat, man.
Maybe he'll let us follow him out there.
We can ride in his wake.
That's right.
Hey, Captain Adam runs a 24-foot Cape Horn, a 31-foot Cape Horn, and then I think they've got like a 42 Invincible.
I think it's a 40, yeah.
And Butch was looking at his website, and he said, "Are we going to go out there on that 24-foot Cape Horn?" And I said, "I don't think so. Let me text him real quick." So I texted him. I said, "Hey, we're not going to go on the 24 Cape Horn, are we?" He's like, No, we'll go on the 31. And I said, "Okay, we just got some folks that are kind of, they're kind of sensitive." And he was like, "Yeah, I only caught about 100 or so off that 24."
The other big story of rodeo was speckled trout. Big change this year. You know, we went from just weighing the biggest fish to slot fish.
Dude, that was a giant slot.
Oh, yeah, 4.19.
That's a stud.
Big one. Came from the Mobile River. It was just such a tight race. You know, you had, I think, Joseph Breland, he was leading up in like Saturday, and then he got bumped on Sunday by two more. He had like a 4-pound slot, what I was thinking was a giant. I didn't think anybody was going to touch it, and of course somebody did, so it was neat.
Is that a conservation move, Richard?
Oh, for sure it was a conservation move. So what we did was we took the open category and the jackpot category, and we made it slot fish only. And then in the cash prizes division, we offered a 5-fish creel and a lunker category. In the minimum on your lunker in the creel or the lunker division was 26 inches. So there was no business for a fish in between 22 and 26 inches.
Yeah.
And I mean, I tell you,
that's awesome.
Back when I was like one of the committee members, one of the new guys in the rodeo, everybody knew I was a fisherman. So what'd they make me do all weekend? Clean fish, right?
Right.
I can't tell you how many hundreds and hundreds of 4 to 6 pound trout that I have cleaned and put in Ziploc bags at the rodeo site.
Yeah.
And it really
hurts you a little bit.
Well, it does. It does now. Thinking back on it, you know, back then I was just happy to be the cool guy that knew how to clean fish real fast, you know. But it makes me smile very proudly today that the rodeo is not responsible for like just absolutely like slaughtering speckled trout in Alabama, you know. And I've got some juicy stuff to tell y'all in my inshore report coming up, which will be very interesting about trout. I had a couple of really good trips this week post rodeo, which is usually not the case.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm going to be looking forward to listening to y'all's show. For the folks listening to the Northwest Florida Fishing Report, if you want to hear Richard's inshore report, tune into the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. But right now, let's take it offshore for a joint offshore report with Captain Delynn Sigler. Well, Captain Delynn, welcome to the Northwest Florida / Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. We're proud to have you, man. I know you do some for-hire captaining on private boats as well as your own boats. To start out, tell us a little bit about your business, where you run out of, and what kind of things you do.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all having me. What I do is I bounce from boat to boat every day. I'm on a different boat. People call me and say, hey, I have a boat. I want to go fishing. I either, I'm new to it or I hadn't been for a while. I don't know where the fish are. Can you come help me out? So I jump on their boat and, give them little tips on how to work their electronics and what kind of reels they should use and take them out fishing for the day and go have a good time. At the end of the day, I always tell them, look, if you're not happy for any reason whatsoever, you don't pay me anything. I'd rather have a happy customer than the money. So that's kind of what I do. I just kind of take people out fishing and go have a good time. Whatever they want to catch, it doesn't matter to me.
That's awesome. And that's so cool for people that
super cool
want to run their own boat. Yeah.
Well, just learn tips and tricks on how to hold up on a spot, how to work your equipment bottom fishing, how to work your equipment in shallow water, how to work your equipment in deep water, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Yep. Kind of what I do. I tell people, I say, look, I'm not trying to sell my trip, sell myself, but this is what I do. And I can promise you, if you're kind of new to the business, or even if you don't know why, have done it for a while, I can show you more in a couple of trips, and you're going to learn 5 years on your own.
Amen.
This is kind of what I do, and I can promise you, I'm not tight-lipped. I may not tell you exactly where I'm going to fish, but I will tell you all the do's and don'ts.
That's really interesting too, because I really feel like when you take someone fishing, they can learn so much more on a charter trip, especially probably what people are tickled about with what you do, coming aboard their boat, showing them how to use their equipment. They can learn so much more with you on board with your hands on. They've got all day to talk to you about the whole thing than they could
cut years off your learning curve.
Yeah. And years off of like a dock talk and reading magazines and listening to podcasts or doing whatever,
Whoa, wait a minute. Cut that out. Edit that out, Johnny. Edit that out. All right.
But you know what I'm saying? Like that's really unique. And I think people are probably really gaining a lot from that that type of experience because it's just, I mean, that's putting your hands on something and being able to drill a guy with a zillion questions all day has got to be way more helpful. And then you're actually showing them how it works too, because you're going to put them on fish. So
yeah, and I'm not saying my way is the perfect way, the only way. It's just what works for me. So, but I can tell them, they go, please bomb me with questions. Say, hey, I've been doing this. And I'll say, hey, that works great. Try this little tweak on the side, or really don't do that because I'm going to show you why you wouldn't want to do that. One of my biggest things is you read magazines. This is all day long. Every magazine you read, use the smallest swivel you can get away with. Well, when we're fishing a Carolina rig and say we're using a 16-ounce lead, those fish don't care what that little tiny swivel looks like underneath that big old giant lead. So I use a big old giant swivel, so I never, ever have to worry about a swivel failure, ever. That's a little tip I give them. Look, don't buy those little ones because you're going to use it 2 or 3 times. It's going to get banged on coral or a rock or the wreck or get bent. The next big grouper you hook is going to break your swivel.
Yeah.
Hang on. You guys have coral? What is coral? What is coral? I thought that was like in the Florida Keys.
Well, we don't have a lot. We have a lot of limestone bottoms.
Yeah. No, but you're right, though. I mean, little things like that take you hundreds and hundreds of trips to learn. And if you're a recreational angler and you've got the weekends to fish, that's literally could be decades of fishing before you pick these things up. And I know as a young kid, you know, I was fishing with my dad and my relatives who were recreational guys. And I was blown away as I became a teenager and became a deckhand on a charter boat to see the simplicity of what charter captains and charter operations do and catch way more fish than recreational guys. It's very simple, but there's a reason for everything they do.
It's because it's been tried and true for years and years. You've trimmed out all the fat over decades.
Right. And that's really awesome. I bet that's an awesome experience for guys, and to be able to do it on their boat where they've got a lot of investment and they want to take their own boat. That's why they bought the boat. But at the same time, you know, they don't want to go out there and get frustrated either.
And there's no shame in that. Right. It's okay. I mean, really.
I'm already thinking about when I'm going to get on Captain Sigler's schedule here. Well, one of the reasons we wanted to bring you on to both shows, Cap, is that you charter all the way from Orange Beach, Alabama, over to Destin, Florida. And I think that's a really interesting wrinkle because having lived in both areas, it's a very different fishery. Tell us about the differences that you see fishing that stretch of the Emerald Coast and over into Alabama.
Okay, well, like when I go to Destin, many times I go southeast. And if you want red grouper and gag grouper, there's many more over south of Destin, east of Destin, than there is, say, off of Orange Beach. And the scamp are much smaller on average, not always. But when you go, say, over to Orange Beach, you get much bigger snapper and much bigger scamp. So it kind of dictates where I'm going to fish that day and how I'm going to fish. You know, what size line, what size baits I'm going to fish. I catch a lot more gag grouper out of Destin than I do Pensacola and Orange Beach.
Well, do you attribute that to just more natural bottom?
I don't think so, no, because there's plenty over there too.
Yeah.
I just think off that middle grounds over there, I think there's a lot more groupers, a lot more breeding goes on over there, and we just kind of catch them before, you know, they get too far west.
Makes sense.
A lot of guys in the Alabama region want to target fish besides red snapper. Season's closed. Right. They know that there's other fish out there. So let's talk to that point for a bit for our Alabama guys. If you're leaving out of Orange Beach, and the same really applies for guys leaving out of Dauphin Island too, but if you're leaving out of Alabama and you want to target some species that are not red snapper, what are you going to do, Cap?
I'm going to get over 100 feet of water. If you stay in shallow, you're going to get a lot of snappers and triggerfish and vermilions and such. But if I'm going to target grouper, I'm getting over 100 feet of water, and that goes from 100 right on out to 300. And just target wrecks, bottom. They live on all of them, and fish on the bottom and near the bottom, either right on the bottom or 4 or 5 cranks up, but not up in the water. Not for grouper.
For grouper, does that same scenario apply as you go over out of, say you're leaving out of Destin or Pensacola? Do you still feel like you need to go that far out and do those same things, or can you spend some more time near shore?
You can actually catch them a lot shallower over in Destin. You know, we get them over there in 75 feet of water. But I still like, if you want the bigger grouper, I still like to get in that, 100-plus feet of water. But, yeah, like your red groupers, they'll come in a lot shallower than your scamps and your gags, per se. You can get those out of, southeast of Destin, sometimes in 80 feet of water, you get you a really nice red grouper. And some gags, too. I mean, you know how fish are. They've got tails and they substitute use them, so they are where you find them. But I'm just giving you general information about where I would go look.
Certainly. Cap, are you more of a live bait guy, or do you like to jig up those grouper, or what's your go-to?
I am not a jig guy for grouper. I know they work. Don't throw rocks at me.
We wouldn't do that. That's why I asked.
But it's just not my thing. And a lot of people I take, aren't seasoned anglers,
Sure.
So we just put the live bait down there and let it wiggle around, do its thing. And when the rod bends over, you start reeling. We do some dead bait also, but I am a live bait kind of guy. I love live bait. We catch cigar minnows, herrings, hardtails, mullet, bluefish, whatever we can get our hands on in the mornings. And, take them out there, just drop them down. Generally, as a rule, drop them down, reel up 4 or 5 cranks, and wait till the rod bends over.
Let's talk about setup a little bit. Your grouper is your forte. So one of the things that I've always struggled with, especially when I was a deckhand, was helping my anglers make the connection that when you hook a grouper, you've got a very small window of time to get that fish out of the wreck. What is your advice to a guy who's not done a ton of grouper fishing, who gets that first big pull from a big gag grouper? What do you recommend they do to get that fish out and moving towards the surface?
Depends on how the fishing is, but if fishing's really good, sometimes you can reel up as high as 10 cranks off the bottom, and they'll come up and bite it. And so the higher you can get him to bite, the better opportunity you have of catching him. He's trying to go back home whenever he feels that hook. So reel hard, pull hard, give it all you got. That's what I tell him. We catch some of them, a lot of them we don't, especially the big ones. You just got to get lucky. But, yeah, let him start bending over. We got to hook him first. Once you get him hooked,
go to town.
Reel till you can't reel anymore.
Yep.
Just hard as you can reel, and get him off that bottom. Once you get him up, 10, 15 cranks, you usually got it.
Yeah, break him off or get him out, right?
Right.
When you're talking about your rigging, are you doing like a kind of a with the live bait, like a typical sow rig, maybe a longer leader, something of that nature?
90% of my rigs are just Carolina rigs with a 6 or 7 foot leader.
Okay.
What I use, it's long enough he can still run around, run from the fish, get the fish excited, but short enough that when he bites it, you can know he's biting and get the hook to him and get him away from the bottom. I'm not a big 12, 15 foot leader guy because it's too much room for error.
Certainly.
So, too short. I tell everybody, especially live bait, it's like a cat chasing a mouse. He pounces on the mouse when the mouse runs. If the mouse doesn't run, a lot of times he won't pounce. So these fish are old, they're big, they've seen it all. So you get that 7 foot leader and a good lively bait, and the grouper swims up to him. A lot of times you can feel your bait going nuts, and it's on down there. And so just a long enough leader that he can run, that gives him, if it's a 6 foot leader, that gives him 12 foot to run. So
that's right.
Get that grouper excited and run and pounce on him, and it's on.
Delynn, I think one of the things that most people struggle with when it comes to targeting grouper, red porgy white snappers, as we call them, beeliners, some of these other bottom species, is they are so used to fishing a specific number that they have, and they don't have a specific number that they know that this is where I go to get grouper. I know that personally I've had some of my better trips on stuff that we have just kind of drifted across as we were fishing other stuff that look good. How important is it to have good numbers when you're really trying to target these other fish versus going out and doing some looking and some searching and finding new areas that day?
Just scouting natural bottom on the edge, you mean?
Yeah. I think you put your numbers in there. That's where you're going, but you're looking all the way there, and you're looking from number to number. You're just always studying that bottom machine, always studying the bottom machine. Yeah, some of the best numbers I fish on a day, I'll fish 3 or 4 spots. All of a sudden we'll hit one, and we'll just load the boat, and I'm like, oh, Captain, that was a great number. It's like, great, because we just got that one today.
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time, some of the best numbers you'll fish are the numbers that you found that day. And I think the reason you find them because they're covered up with fish, and you'll go back next week and you'll run over that same spot and it won't really mark much, and and you wouldn't even fish it normally, and it doesn't show up much because they all moved. But you found it that day because you ran over, you're like, oh, wow, that's a great-looking spot. Look at all the fish on it. Let's fish it.
With grouper hanging so close to the wreck and so close to the bottom, do you fish stuff that doesn't mark spectacularly, or what are you looking for when you're watching that bottom machine and you see an obvious piece of relief? You know, it's obvious there's a drop off or that there's a rock or there's something going on, but you're not seeing, you know, the fish up in the water column like you do on a snapper reef. Or are you? What are you seeing on that bottom machine that tells you this is worth spending some time on?
It's usually when I get to an area that I know produces and is normally good. That's when I will fish much smaller stuff. Fished a spot the other day. We only fished 2 spots. Turned around and came in, left them biting. The second spot we fished, just a little bit of natural bottom, wasn't much to it at all, but it was in a good area. We dropped down. I only fished for 2 or 3 minutes to a spot. If I don't get a bite, it's time to go. And I'd reached up and I took the number out of the machine and put the next one in there. I said, all right, guys, let's go. And the guy in the back got a bite. So before he could get his up, the guy in the front of the boat was on. Before he even got his halfway up, the other 2 guys were bowed over, and it was on, and we left them biting at that spot. The boxes were topped off. So give them a few minutes. It doesn't have to be a big, giant relief. If you're just marking a few fish down there, if you can never get them fired off, sometimes it's just their screen just blows up. We looked at the machine 4 or 5 minutes later, everybody's bowed up, and there's just fish all over the bottom. Groupers were coming 20 foot off the bottom. It was just insane. So it doesn't have to be a big, giant spot, you know, a lot of relief or anything like that.
I used to laugh because one of the running jokes when Butch and I were working together was we'd run over a spot that just looked dismal, and the captain would tell us to drop them down, and we're like, what are we fishing this for, you know? And I say, well, maybe they'll come up out of there. And sometimes they do, you know? You just never really know.
Delynn, that's something I always kind of. I'm primarily an inshore guy. I don't spend a ton of time. I probably spend 90% of my time inshore fishing, but I use my electronics a lot. And something I always tell people, man, you know, the way electronics are these days, when you're going from point A to point B, I bring up my screen to where it's just nothing but my bottom machine, and I just use your bearing, you know, like your heading and your bearing to get to where you're going from point A to point B. And on my Ray Marine, actually the other day I was offshore trying to target cobia, and I was running from
What's a cobia, Richard?
Hey, well, I'm talking to a Florida guy over here.
True, that's true.
I was, you know, you're a Florida guy, right? I didn't want you.
No, come on now. I just live here.
I didn't want you to get confused, Joe. But anywho, I ran over something and I marked it on my machine, you know, and then I pulled up my map and I looked how far away it was from where I was, and it was a mile behind me. And
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's so cool the way electronics are. You can, you know,
Rewind it almost.
Yeah, you
It's
can.
crazy.
I can definitely rewind my Ray Marine. It's
That's nuts.
unbelievable. And we went back on the way back after we went to the ship. We went back and checked the spot. Man, it was just loaded with fish. You know, I'm like, and it was close in too. So I was
Don't tell
like,
anybody. That's
ooh.
my spot now. Don't tell anybody about that.
It is so neat, man. It's something I always kind of preach to everybody, man, is like pay attention to what you're doing when you're doing it. You know what I mean? If you're just riding across open bottom, you need to be watching that machine.
Yep.
And if you're not, you are messing up big time offshore, you know, because you never know what you're going to find.
That's right.
Well, Delynn, that's some great tips for grouper and for other species. I mean, generally when you find those grouper, you are going to find those porgies and beeliners and a lot of those other fish. And those are great tips. And I think those will help people regardless of where they're fishing out of. But tell us, you're getting to see a stretch of coastline that not a lot of folks get to fish, all those different areas. So right here we are, end of July. How's the bite been? You know, in Florida, you're at the very tail end. You got the last day of recreational snapper season is July 25th. You're at the very tail end of the season. How's the bite?
It's been good for grouper, especially Destin. The gag grouper bite has been amazing this year. It's probably lasted longer this year than I can ever remember. Lots of gags, quite a few big ones, you know, 40-plus pounders.
Dang.
It's been really good. Off of Pensacola and Orange Beach, you know, they're only 14 miles apart, pass to pass. So I kind of grouped them in the same. It's been pretty good. A lot of red grouper over there, some gag grouper. The current has been really bad over that way. So a lot of my better grouper spots I haven't been able to fish. So we've been targeting the bigger snappers. We get a lot of really big snappers over that way. We try to get a limit of, big 15, 18 pounders. But Destin's got a lot smaller snappers this year, but lots of them. Lots of snappers in Destin this year.
What about other species like king mackerel? Are you seeing a good bite of them? You finding any cobia? We had a really cool report, like about a wad of about 100 cobia off of Pensacola last week.
That's what I heard.
And that was a neat report to see. What are you seeing with regards to the other pelagics?
I have been catching actually quite a few cobias offshore. I don't think cobias like that 200-300 feet of water, but if you get in like 200 or less, you catch a lot more cobia. I've been catching quite a few of them here and there, but I ain't killing them. But we're getting a few of them. But a lot of beeliners or vermilions or mingos, whatever you call them, are around. King mackerel really have showed up well for me offshore in the last couple of weeks. A lot of them, and we caught a really big one last week, over 50.
Wow.
Just fishing on the bottom of cigar minnow.
Really? That was my next question, whether you were doing a drift line or something like that. But you're catching those big kings on the bottom, huh?
Caught it on a circle hook on the bottom.
Dang, huh?
So just pure luck. But we're catching them now just about every trip. Not big ones, but a lot of 8, 12, 15 pounders.
Perfect.
They've really showed up everywhere. I'm catching them from Orange Beach all the way to Destin.
That's really interesting to hear the differences between, like you say, you're facing that
it's so
current
close,
in
but
Orange
it feels
Beach.
like so far.
That's right. And it is. It's a lot different. I mean, it's just different. So that's really, really cool. You could join us and share what you've learned fishing both areas, Delynn. And, one of the things we do on here each week is we get a question from one of our listeners, and we call it the Hey Cap question. And you are going to get broke in right this week. You got the Hey Cap question. Right. So this week's Hey Cap question is brought to you by Foster Contracting. And the recent thunderstorms that have been producing wind and hail in the area may have damaged your home's roof. The certified roofing pros at Foster Contracting offer free roofing inspections. And if your roof has received damage, most homeowners will have little to no cost out of pocket when going through your insurance. If you're looking for quality construction with a dependable, licensed, and certified fortified roofing professional, give the Fortified Roofing Pros a call at 251-973-9999. They are a family-owned business that is big enough to get the job done, but small enough to care. Remember to support the local businesses that make your local podcast possible, and check them out at fortifiedroofingpros.com. All right, Delynn, Chad Broadus has a question this week, and you hit on it already, but I'm going to ask you anyway because I think we can elaborate. Chad wants to know, he says, "Hey, Cap, how far out is the grouper bite, and what kind of gear would you suggest?" So you mentioned that if you're fishing out of Orange Beach, you're looking for that 100-foot or deeper depth, but how far out is that for you out of Orange Beach, and how far is it for you out of Destin?
Okay, great question. Chad, if you're fishing out of Destin, I would start in that 30-mile range. 30 miles due south, southeast. Been pretty consistent, pretty good right through there. A lot of big gags through there, some scamps. A buddy of mine caught a really big yellow edge out in that general area yesterday. So 30 miles due south of Destin would be a really, really good spot to look at. If I was out of Orange Beach or Pensacola, 30, I'd probably do that 30 plus, and out of Pensacola, I'd head out to the south or southwest. If I was going out of Orange Beach, I'd go due south and getting over 100 feet of water. 150 would be even better. And it's been pretty consistent. Catching a lot of groupers right now. It's been a really good year for grouper, especially big scamps. If you head south of Dauphin Island, Orange Beach, some really, really big scamps are coming in over there. 18, 19, 20, 22 pounders.
Now that you mentioned that about the scamps, we just had the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo last weekend, and the scamp category was very, very, very close. It was unbelievable. I had some friends of mine who keep their boat in the boat storage unit where I'm at up here in Theodore, Alabama, and they caught their limit all 3 days of the Alabama DC Fishing Rodeo on scamp. Like just unbelievable. And the master angler Mandy Tillman, she got first place scamp, which brought her to her victory there. So it was pretty neat.
Stud too,
man.
Awesome,
man. So
we had a 22-pounder a week and a half ago over there.
Golly, y'all are making me hungry. That is
those are delicious.
I ate some last night, Joe.
Got him.
I didn't.
It doesn't get any better than that.
I didn't get my call. I'm just whenever I could get invited, that'd be fine.
Man, I have a family of 5. Okay,
That's right.
Hey, what's one more? So Delynn, Brad also want to know what kind of gear you suggest. I know, I'm sure most of the time you're fishing conventional tackle. Talk to us a little bit about conventional tackle for gearing up for these. That's a big fish, a 40-pound grouper. I'm telling you, man, you better bring your big boy pants when you hook up to a big gag like that.
Yep, leave them feelings at home in the bed with your wife, right?
I have seen many men reduced to pools of just mush by big grouper. Yeah. I mean, and that's very frustrating too, because like you talked about, you get on a spot where the bite is good, you get 8 breakoffs and you're going, that could have been 8, that could have been 8 grouper.
Yeah.
That's a difference maker in a day. So talk to us about the conventional tackle setup that you like to have if you're going after these big, tough fish.
Okay. Yeah, you can break a few off and totally shut the bite down. So, which is frustrating. You get on a good bite and then just totally shut them down. I use conventional and electric, whatever the guys want to use. I don't care. Again, most people tell you, get away with the lightest stuff you can get away with. I go exact opposite. Use the heaviest you can get away with. If you can still get the bite and using a 100-pound test, use a 100-pound test. I had a good friend of mine one time tell me that he was fishing for big amberjacks, and he was using a 400-pound leader, and he just could not get them in the boat. I was like, man, they're breaking 400-pound tests. He goes, well, I'm using an 80-pound test when my leader's 400. I was like, look, if they'll bite 400-pound leader, I'd use 400-pound test.
Right.
So anyway, mostly what I use 90% of the time is I like braid with about a 30-foot, 40-foot, 50-foot top shot max. That way in deep water, you can feel the bite, you can get him off the bottom, but you still have that top shot, so you have a little bit of stretch, a little bit of abrasion resistance, and they don't ever see the braid anyway. So, but I generally use a 100-pound test 90% of the time. That way it's still light enough to get the bite, heavy enough to get him off the bottom.
And a 100-pound braid as well?
I use a 100-pound braid, 100-pound top shot, 100-pound leader. A buddy of mine told me one time, I grew up with the old thing, hey, let's use 60-pound test with a 100-pound leader. And he goes, why? You're only as strong as your weakest link. If he'll bite a 100-pound leader, use a 100-pound test.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I never thought about it like that. So, yeah, I will sometimes, if they won't bite, you can drop your leader down, loosen your drag up a little bit. So if you got a 100-pound braid, you can always go down to 80-pound leader and just, go a little lighter on your drag. But if you got a 100-pound test, if you'll bite a 100-pound leader, use a 100-pound test line.
One of the things that I personally have had better success with grouper, I like a lot of drag, like you're talking about. I like a really heavy main line, a really heavy leader. And I mean, like I said, I like to either break them off or get them in. But that being said, I do use a fairly limber rod because I feel like that limber rod, it almost acts like a drag in a way, or it gives some of that stretch so that I've just had good success with that. What do you like out of a rod when it comes to action and stiffness?
I do. I really like a rod with a lot of action. I really do, especially with braid. You don't pull as many hooks. You can see the bite a lot better. In deep water, I tell people you're going to see the bite more than you're going to feel it. And so a lot of times I'll be standing there at the wheel driving, and I'll look at the person in the back or the front and go, hey, he's biting. Go ahead and reel. He's on there. And he goes, well, how did you know? I said, well, I could see the rod. So I like a rod with a lot of action, especially with braid because there's no stretch. That rod's going to give you that little bit of bounce so you don't snatch the hook out of his mouth. So, yes, I definitely use limber rods, solid fiberglass rods, or some kind of rod that's got a lot of action to it. The res rods and Metallica rods and things like that.
And Delynn, when you talk about a lot of action, do you mean like a softer rod, or do you mean like a more fast tip? I'm just for our listeners so they can wrap their brain around that.
Either or, but my rod's generally been from the rod seat all the way to the tip.
Okay, so something that is more soft than stiff is
right.
Okay.
Right.
And I'm assuming, and I'm just with my thought process, the exact same as yours. You're using braided line, fighting really heavy fish. You want the rod to absorb all the head shaking and pulling so that the hook stays in the fish's mouth.
Yep.
Right. I will say one thing that I disagree with a lot of people. I read an article years ago that said stop them or pop them for grouper, and I agree with that a lot. But here's the deal: you're not going to catch a 50 or 60 or 70 pound gag if he doesn't pull drag.
Right.
So I tighten the drag as tight as I dare tighten it without breaking it. But a big fish is going to do what a big fish does, and he's going to pull drag. So you just got to hope he doesn't get back to his wreck or his hole or whatever.
Get him off that bottom as quick and as fast as you can, then give him a little bit of play with.
As quick as you can, but he's still going to pull drag. If he's a 70-pound gag, he's going to pull drag unless you got him on something 300-pound test or something.
Well, that's
Delynn, for me, being from Alabama over here, Alabama redneck, I think you passed the smell test, man, for being a contributor, man. It sounds like you locked a locker in 4 low, man, and pulled her on out of there, man. I like it, man. I like what I'm hearing.
Give her another 100.
I do.
That's it.
I pull hard, man. That's what I tell them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect that from a Florida boy, man. So I like the way you roll, man. I'm in. I'm buying.
Great.
Delynn, I do have to bring you back to that though, because that is one of my nemesis fish is a 50+ pound gag grouper. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
That's the fish I want to get. I know I've hooked some of them, but I've never gotten one to the surface. And so I'm an engineer's son. I'm a technical guy. You know, when we fish offshore, we're always pulling our drags. If we're running 50 wides, we know we've got a 50-pound main line. That's our weakest point. So we're running, maybe 15 pounds of drag, 17 pounds of drag, somewhere in there. If you're setting up with a 100-pound test and you're fishing on the bottom, if I was going to pull my drag, where would I set it? What poundage do you think I should set that if I'm trying to catch that big gag?
25 to 30 pounds.
Dang. So about like an 80 wide.
It's going to be the real deal when you hook up to him and put that under your shoulder, Butch.
Yeah.
For sure.
Things are going to give.
Put the knees under the gunnels, Cap.
Things are going to give.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Awesome report.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope everybody's enjoyed hearing a little something from the east side. But Delynn, if folks want to get up with you and put together a trip on their boat, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
They can just call my cell phone number, 850-758-2165. And just be patient. If they call all day and they don't get me, it's probably because I'm offshore and I don't have service. So, but it's a big pet peeve of mine to always return phone calls. Even if I can't help them, I will always call you back. And usually late that afternoon on the drive home, I call them and say, hey, we can do this or we can't do this.
Awesome. We appreciate the Hey Cap question, Chad. Make sure you email us at alabama@bestfishingreport.com. Chad's going to get a Pure Flats Slick Lure Care Package. We appreciate the question and we appreciate the report. Mr. Captain Delynn, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate everything.
Captain Richard, you think he passes the smell test, huh?
Man, I like it. I like what I'm hearing. He likes my man likes some heavy gear. He likes a lot of drag.
Kill big fish.
I mean, that's
it's
what it takes. You know what I mean? And like he said, most people, and I'm probably this way because I'm an inshore guy, I'm going to go lightest means necessary to get done what I need to get done.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to think the other direction, and that's what he does, and it's obviously working for him big time.
Go big or go home.
I mean, this is pretty neat.
Pretty cool,
think about putting 25 to 30 pounds of drag on a fish
on a bottom fish.
In real, I know I didn't get to ask him, but I wanted to know whether those are if you're doing that with the rod in your hand or in the rod holder. 'Cause I feel like that amount of drag might pull might break the glass on the boat. You know what I mean? That's
I don't know.
That's heavy duty, man. That's cool.
I'm not calling anybody out, but I think if you're putting that in the rod holder, I don't know, you might be tying your braid straight to your hook too.
Man, I like it.
Oh man, that's cool. And the thing that I noticed after doing this show for a couple of years, the guys that are really tuned in, they don't spot fish. They maybe start with a spot, but they're constantly aware of their surroundings. They improvise, adapt, overcome.
Good at finding fish.
And you can tell that that's what he's doing. So very cool, very cool. Y'all check Delynn out if you want to get somebody on your boat to help you out. Well, boys, I got to go do this East Coast thing.
Yeah, we got to get our inshore report and our onshore report. Enjoyed it, man. That was fun. Yeah,
that was fun. I'm going to leave you guys with it. I'm going to go over here and do my thing. Y'all do your thing, and stay safe out there. I'll talk to you guys again soon.
Thank you, Joe.
Man, that was pretty cool right there. That was fun.
I enjoyed that too.
Something a little different. Captain Delynn got going on.
Yep, I enjoyed listening and talking to him, and pretty neat pretty neat business model he's got there. You know, I think he told us offline before we jumped on the show. It doesn't have any openings until October 4th. I mean, so
jammed up.
That's pretty cool. He and I have different business models because I tell people I charge them extra to go fishing on their boat.
That's right. Never know what you're getting into.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just with the way I think about it. I hop on my boat. I know everything is. I know everything is going to work. I have everything I need on my boat. You can jump on somebody else's boat. It's hard to do your job and be effective. You know, have the same amount of confidence running around our inshore system here is when you jump on somebody else's boat. Not to say that you need like electronics or anything. I could probably operate just fine without any electronics, but
just what you're used to.
Yeah, but man, if just to hear how well he does it, Captain Dick very impressed right now.
Well, speaking of Captain Dick, man, let's get the inshore report. What you got? What you been doing? What's been going on? I've heard some speckled trout tail.
Was out, you know, when rodeo, I'm so involved with rodeo, and rodeo comes up, I immerse myself into that.
Sure.
Don't really fish a lot in between, I guess, like the young anglers tournament and then until after the big tournament. And I think I only fished 2 days in between both. And so I always go out the day after, and I'm like, man,
what's going to happen?
Do I still know what I'm doing?
Right.
Can I still do what I do on a regular basis? You know, and the other thing too is I always feel, I don't know, it's just maybe it's a mindset, but I feel like the resource has been raped after the rodeo. You know what I mean? Like it's just been. I mean, there's 3,800 people fishing in Alabama for the tournament.
And how much coastline? That ain't very much.
I know. And then the other thing too is like when you look at our numbers, like how many fish we weigh in every year, like it's like a speckled trout and red snapper tournament. You know what I mean? There's happens to be 28 other species that we can that people can weigh in.
Ones that people target.
They are. So I always feel like they have like the fish like have like maybe the rodeo blues or something, you know. But man, the past 2 days,
it's just you.
Oh, I know. The past 2 days have been absolutely jam up, and it's been a deep water bite and a shallow water bite. Both have been good. I kind of did it opposite today that I usually would do it. I usually like to start in shallow water when it gets hot. The water temperature is like anywhere from like 86 to 88 degrees right now. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable how hot the water is right now. And so this morning I started in deep water and did really good. And I didn't really work out because the wind started kind of backing up the tide where I was fishing slip corks. And then heck, I went and spent the second half of the morning in shallow water and we whacked them there too. You know what I mean? So fish seem to be generally in a good mood as far as biting goes.
Live shrimp deal?
Yep, it's definitely been live shrimp. I've been slip corking and popping corking. And actually, I lied to you there. I've been catching some fish on some croakers. The past 2 days, probably caught about a dozen fish each trip on some nice live croakers.
Shallow or deep on the croakers?
It's been one day we were slip corking them, so we were doing like the same thing, a little bit of both. One day we were slip corking them and then over some oyster shell, and then yesterday I was freelining some over
I like that.
over some shell as well. Most of the fish I have been fishing have been over oyster shell. I don't know if that's a
thing right now.
A thing or not, but happened to be where I stumbled upon them. I was fishing over shell.
I know this captain that catches a lot of fish, and he always tells me to pay attention whenever I do things like that.
That's right. Is his name Dick?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, cool, man. That sounds promising. So no post-rodeo blues.
No, and
nice size trout.
Oh yeah, been real nice size. And that was the thing too. It was either like boat trips have been either, you know, a 10 to 14-inch dink that you knew that wasn't going to measure, or if it was like what I call a box fish, you know, that's about throw them in a box, you know, it's a box fish. So it's been fun. It's been good. I would say overall good news. The other thing too, it's exciting too. Blackfish still all over the place. Same as usual.
Studs waiting on the rodeo.
Yep. There was some very nice fish weight in the rodeo. I was really expecting to see some bigger ones, to be honest with you. Right around 20
Especially
pounds.
What we've seen so far this year.
I know. Right around 20 pounds was the top, was the winning fish. I don't know, for some reason I was expecting to see something a little bit beefier.
It's been a pretty banner year.
It has been unbelievable year. Glad to see some of my buddies do well in that category. So, man, it's just business as usual.
About redfish. I mean, redfish mixed in. You've been trying to target them, or
I haven't had a whole lot of luck on reds here recently.
Patrick said the same thing last weekend.
Really?
Last week, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that. I hadn't really been in like a lot of redfish areas.
That's
I would
what he
say.
said too. He said I might not be doing the right things.
Yeah. I've got certain places, ideas about reds, and hadn't been in those areas. So
Patrick's saving up for September, October for sight fishing up there.
Oh yeah, man, and that I always think about August and September being redfish months, especially the slot size. Those are I don't know what it is. Those fish get up in shallow and they go to gorging. So it's fun. I tell you what, I'm really looking forward to doing here for too long, some ling fishing.
Yeah.
Look, we're right on the cusp of hopefully that breaking loose and kind of getting going. So I'm looking forward to that.
How is it end of July already?
I know.
Dude.
Time is a flying always.
Crazy year, man.
Time is a flying.
Well, man, you guys had some good weather for the rodeo finally.
Ooh,
seems like the rodeo is always notorious for getting popped on some crazy storms. It was pretty nice, wasn't it?
Man, it was. Everybody I talked to was fairly impressed with the weather. It sounded like a lot of the guys who went way offshore hit like some nasty current out there and kind of got a little slop, kind of, everything got kind of
stacked
up a little bit. Had like a westerly current. I guess an easterly current with an east wind, so it was just, made everything stand up. That was kind of like and that was kind of blowing my mind. And they all said it was like 40 miles out. Boom, we hit this current. And it was snotty, and I was thinking, damn, it seemed like it's been nice.
Right. It's beautiful here.
I know. But of course,
offshore though. That's funny though. I mean, the current direction can make a big difference.
Big time. And
you can cross a rip. Like you say, 40 miles.
That's it. That's like everybody said, 40 miles out. But man, it looks like we got some weather coming in this weekend. I guess really tomorrow, which is Thursday, and Friday, and then probably will kind of bleed into Saturday a little bit. It looks like it's going to be pretty breezy out of the southeast.
Super swelly.
Yep, a lot of thunderstorms coming in. Got a little tropical system. Moving its way in here. Hopefully, it'll kind of teeter on out into Mexico and get going. But
might be a good weekend to go plant your summer crops for the deer. That's what I did last weekend.
What's a deer?
That's right. It's a little brown thing, delicious to eat.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it might be a good weekend to check out your live well pumps and
do some honeydews.
Yeah, maybe do a little tackle organizing or honeydews.
That's right. Well, we got to get that tip from you. This week's inshore tip is brought to us by Hilton's Offshore Charts. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over with. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. Make the choice that professional captains all over the Gulf make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check them out at hiltonsoffshore.com. What you think for an inshore tip this week, Cap?
Man, one thing I've kind of been noticing kind of through all my trips, one thing I try to do when I'm fishing alongside my customers is I buy a certain amount of bait every day, and of course it costs money. And so I try to fish artificial next to my customers, and of course help them as they're baiting hooks and taking fish off and rigging and everything. And one thing I've really started to see kind of fall off, seen a curve happen, is artificial bites kind of got a little tough. Hadn't been able to quite catch the fish quite as well on like the voodoos under a popping cork or.
And because it's so hot?
Yeah, and I think that's it.
Water temperature getting super high?
Yeah, the water temp's getting real high right now. It's anywhere from, I've seen, anywhere from about 86 to 88 degrees. Unbelievable how warm it is. So what comes with that is depending more on live bait. I don't know what it is about that warmer water temperature while those fish are honed in on eating that live bait, and you can't fool them with the plastic. But
maybe it's just more plentiful.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it, and I think that's just typical summertime.
Sure.
It gets like that. You get a nice opportunity early morning, late evening with artificial, but through the day, if you want to stay consistent, I think having live bait's key. So with having to use live bait in this warm water that we have to keep your live bait in good shape.
Alive.
Yep, in your live well. I really like to use a recirculating system in my live well. So I pump water into my live well, and I keep that same water in my live well all day if I can.
Sure.
And in the upside to that is that you can control that water, So I have a bubble machine in my boat, which is that's helping cool it down. So you're bubbling it, and you can recirculate it, with a pump and cooling it. Generally in the morning, even before my charter comes on board, I'll maybe take two Ziploc bags of ice, put that in my live well, let that water kind of cool off a little bit. And I'm telling you what, just a little bit goes a long way. You don't want to
freeze them out.
Yeah, you don't want to put so much ice in there that you stick your hand in there and it feels like you put your hand in a
bag of ice.
Or like in a beer beer cooler or whatever with like some slushy ice. And you don't want it to feel like that. You just want to feel it like slightly cooler than what the water is.
And I'm sure it takes a little bit of playing with too.
It is because you can definitely
medium.
You can definitely use too much. And I tell you what happens when you use too much is you'll dip your shrimp out of there and you'll hook them on your hook and you'll drop them in the water and you'll see them freeze. You know what I'm saying? Like they won't move because they just got shocked.
What is this?
Yeah. Well, because you just took
Why
him
are
out
you
of
boiling me.
Yeah, you took him out of 60-degree water. You put him in 90-degree water. You know what I mean? You want it to be like 10, 15 degrees, or so, and try to keep that water quality like that all day. I keep a lot of bait from one day to the next. So, like, I've got a bunch of shrimp and croakers in my live well right now that I'm going to use on my charter tomorrow, and I just put a little bit of ice in there and cooled off the water. I'm going to keep those air bubbles running all night. And
probably keep it out of the sun.
That's right. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right.
That's right. Any little thing like that you can do is going to go a long way. I've even used some of these ammonia.
G-juice?
Yep, G-juice.
That's what Patrick was harping on last week.
I like some G-juice. I really like Rejuvenate. Some of these other products, what they do is take the ammonia out of the water. They claim that they will help the water absorb oxygen or hold oxygen better. I don't know if that's really happening or not. Man, it's way above my pay grade.
Keep my bait alive.
But I know it works, for sure.
That's all that matters.
Because you can see that ammonia bubble up, and emulsify and get up on the surface and stay out of the water. I know that stuff works. So that's my tip. Take care of your bait.
Heck yeah.
And
sounds like that's the ticket right now. It's good live bait.
I think it is for sure.
Got to keep care of it.
Yep.
Awesome, Cap. All right, man. We love that tip. Let's head on down to Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, Fort Morgan area. Let's get to onshore. Let's see what Captain Dusty Hayes has been up to. What's going on down there, Captain Dusty? What you been up to, bud?
Same old stuff, guys. Busy. Summertime is in full swing, and definitely getting towards the end of the busiest part of the year. But yeah, fishing's good around here. Surf fishing is typical summer stuff. We got a lot of wind this week, so there's not gonna be too much fishing going on the next few days as far as off the beach. The whiting spread out all over as always, and there's actually been a good little push of pompano all the way from guys in Pensacola that I've seen to Fort Morgan. I caught a few nice ones. Let's see, what is today? Wednesday. A few nice ones on Monday. Saw some guys get some yesterday. I've seen a few guys catch a little permit. So we're getting that late summer push like we always do. You get a few waves of them in July and August, and you'll actually get a lot of good size pompano that come through. They've all seemed to be about the same size the past few days, the ones I've seen, but usually at some point when it's really, really hot, especially late July, early August, you'll get a push of big fish that come through, a lot of 18, 19, 20-inch fish. Although they're skinny, they're still a big fish. The typical stuff other than that, ladyfish and bluefish, a lot of guys shark fishing and catching sharks, still some trout, good numbers of flounder on the beach, a lot of small ones, but there are definitely a good amount of them out there in the surf. But yeah, everything's been good. There's no hot bait or anything. You really just got to go. If you're not catching fish, then you just need to try a different area. I know I fished a few different spots this past week, and, you know, they all produce some fish, some better than others, but just moving around, you know, shrimp, sand fleas, fish bites, you know, the whole normal spiel, it's all going to work for you right now. Also, you know, if you get tired of just baiting the weight, throwing bait out in the surf or, you know, the same little whiting and ladyfish and stuff, you can always throw spoons and, you know, suspending twitch baits, top waters. If you just want to change it up a little bit, it's a great time of year to walk the beach and throw a hard bait and change it up. But you never know what you get. I mean, there was a guy a few weeks ago that came in the shop who hooked a big tarpon, a decent tarpon on the Zara spook trout fishing. You know, so off the beach. So
but that was a surprise.
Oh man,
yeah, that's a hell of a ladyfish right there.
Yeah, that's right,
man. You know, I don't do a whole lot of, like, I guess, surf fishing per se, but over here on Dolphin Island, the speckled trout beach bite has been really good this year. I have not had as many chances as I would like to have gone out there, but the times that I have made it out there, it has been unbelievable. You know what I mean? It's been really, really good speckled trout bite. And I've had some really nice days on redfish. I think I tagged like 18 redfish one day, fishing the beach, probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So it's been a great beach year. I don't know why for me it's like some years.
Catching them old slicks like that.
Yeah. Man, when fish are on the beach, man, when speckled trout anyway, or redfish are on the beach, man,
they're just hungry.
Oh man, you could literally put a piece of beef jerky on a jig head and they would eat it. I mean, they would. They are hungry when they're out on that beach.
What's always amazed me too is the caliber of fish, speckled trout wise. I mean, the redfish are about the same. I find them better eating quality just because they're in cleaner water and their diet's usually a little cleaner versus the typical summertime fish where they're in, you know, the intercoastal and the water's 92 degrees and they're eating blue crabs and they're just, you know, rank. But as far as the caliber of fish that you catch speckled trout wise off the beach is always blown my mind. Just even a 16-inch fish is just fat. I mean, they're just like a football. They're just huge, round fish.
And we've talked about it before. They're just a different fish. Yeah, they fight different. They're prettier. Mm-hmm. They're just different fish to me, in my opinion.
Don't have a blemish on them.
That's right.
You know, great coloring. They're so fat. They're eating good. They're eating big baits. And they're strong just because they'll
hammer a bait and they will fight you. Yep.
You said something about top water. That's what I always love about when they're out there, man. You could throw a top water in the middle of the day on a bluebird sky, and they're going to come up and eat it. You know, it's just that's what's fun about the beach. When it gets right, it's a magical place.
Yep. That, and I mean, it's a good time. You know, somebody getting into fly fishing, it's a good way to you know, up your surf fishing skills with a fly rod. Is down, you know, Fort Morgan and Dauphin Island, trying to catch those big trout down there, and you'll catch plenty of other species in the mix while you're trying to do that. It's a cool place in the summertime.
A lot of life for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've noticed that a pattern, you know, especially more and more over the past few years. Surf fishing's got more popular around here, and especially with Matthew, noticing how he fishes down that way a lot in the summer. And I grew up in Orange Beach, so I've traveled to Perdido and gone to Fort Morgan some, you know, especially in the fall. And I'd trout fish down there some, but I never bait and weight fish down there consistently. I'd only done it a few times up until a few years ago. And this time of year, it seems like there's usually a lot more life down there, even big drum and reds and slot reds to
Spanish,
you know, everything, whiting, Spanish. Yeah, you can catch fish all over, but it does seem like most of the time further west, if you want something to put in that cooler, you got to go west. You can still catch a few whiting and maybe a pompano to the east, but it's usually a lot of ladyfish and bluefish and stuff like that. You don't get the quality eating fish to the east like you do to the west this time of year. And it's really crazy. It kind of spring and fall, it'll get good back east in Orange Beach, really good. And depending on the winter we have, if we have a warmer winter, we'll have some good fishing. But if it's a really cold winter, it's the same thing, same style thing. It's got to go back west. But yeah, it's a cool place down there in Fort Morgan, and there's a lot of water down there that, even though there's a lot of heavily fished spots, there's still a lot of water in between that doesn't get touched. So it's one of the few places left around here that's like that.
You just got to find them for sure.
Yeah, heck yeah, man, that's awesome.
All right, man. We know we got to get that inshore tip from you. This week's onshore tip is brought to us by MDH Foundation Repair. If your home is experiencing foundation problems, MDH Foundation Repair has the best solutions to fix it right and fix it now. The problems you see are only going to get worse, so don't deal with inefficient, unqualified, and pushy salesmen trying to sell you overpriced foundation repair products. The professionals at MDH Foundation will ensure you have a remarkable experience from the first meeting to the finished product. MDH Foundation Repairs, redefining the construction industry and protect your most important asset, your home. Check them out at mdhfoundationrepair.com. What you think for an onshore tip this week, Captain Dusty?
The tip I got this week is kind of a little bit of everything tip. Anybody that's ever used a sabiki rig, whether it's off the pier or, inshore for LYs or offshore for hardtails, whatever you may be doing. And this goes for other things too, even maybe possibly a surf rig. Especially if you're dealing with kids or
a bottom fishing rig or anything, really.
Popping cords. I mean, it's not. Yeah. It's not just limited to a sabiki rig. Really anything, but a small pompano pill float, or even in the marshmallow style too, or even a glow rigging bead that they use for offshore tackle, trolling lures and whatnot, and deep drop rigs. You can find them. Actually, they make a small size. Owner does. It's perfect for putting above your swivel, and it prevents you from reeling that swivel up into your rod tip. It sounds like something some guys that fish all the time, like, oh, I wouldn't do that. But if you're a guide or taking kids or anything like that, it's just a little insurance policy to help keep that tip of your rod in better condition. There's deckhands that come into us in the shop every week with their sabiki rods with tips broken out of them. I actually saw a guy doing that one day, and I was like, what in the world? That was the stupidest thing. He had a yellow pompano float above the sabiki rig, and I was like, what is this guy doing? So I asked him, and he told me why. I was like, man, that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And, he said that he's never, ever had a rod tip break on him because of that. So that's something cool. Like I say, it's bottom fishing, and I do it especially. I'll paint them black, the little glow beads. But a lot of times this time of year when we're fishing the flats for trout and ladyfish or even the surf, if my customers, I'll give them like little flash jigs or spoons, and I'll put a swivel going from my braid to my 60-pound monofilament leader. And I'd use a swivel just because I don't like using swivel. They vanish, and ladyfish try to eat the swivel. They think it's a small bait fish using, but it prevents those line twists because that spoon's always spinning. And I'll put a small little glow bead on there because my customers are always burning it, and they're watching fish jump and, whatever. And then there's that swivel, the third guide in, not just the tip, but 3 guides in. So it'll kind of help them get there and stop, and then they don't have to
reevaluate.
Feel bad about breaking it. Yeah. You can feel that rubber little bead hit that tip, and it stops like a freight train. So,
that's a great tip.
Useful in many ways.
Great, man. That's a great tip, Captain Dusty. If people want to get up with you and get an inshore trip or a surf fishing trip, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Give me a shout, call or text me at 678-897-0167.
Awesome, buddy. We appreciate the report, and that's a great tip. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, guys. Thank y'all.
Thank you, bud.
All right, Captain Richard. That's another good Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, man. I appreciate you co-hosting with me today.
Man, I enjoyed it as always.
Good time,
this is I tell you what, this is a fun show for me to do with you and for all our listeners. And man, I tell you, I get so many compliments all over the place, at boat ramps and different places I go, bait shops, all that. People talking about how much they love the show.
That's awesome. I love that.
And I do too. It tickles me to death, and I'm just appreciative that I'm a part of it.
Well, man,
and
we've said it before. This is y'all's show. We couldn't do it without you guys. Your knowledge. I mean,
what episode are we on, and which one is this? Do you know?
Gosh,
do you even know? You should know off the top of your head.
I would say around 125.
Man,
between 120 and 125 for sure.
Pretty strong.
Strong. It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's been March will be 3 years.
Yep. Well,
crazy.
Well, hopefully we got another 120 in
That's right.
front
We'll
of us,
see.
right? Huh?
Well, we got to do what you learn.
Well, I was going to say, hopefully COVID doesn't drain the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, Lord. Don't even cuss like that. We don't cuss on this podcast. It's
man.
friendly. This week's What You Learn is brought to us by KillerDock, man. As anglers, we put a lot of time. Actually, I saw a picture you posted yesterday, and you said, what do you see? Did you get a new canopy?
No,
you always had the canopy?
No, nobody got it. There was a trout. there was a trout slick in the background. Nobody saw it.
Gosh, we need to be better about explaining trout slicks.
Mm-hmm.
As anglers, we put a lot of time, money, and passion into fishing, but most of us do not have a fish cleaning section that we're proud of. And that's true, man. Many of us are suffering from dock dysfunction, a rotten table with rusty metal. This is just no good. But the dock enhancement that we've all been waiting for is finally here. KillerDock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. KillerDock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. You guys visit KillerDock.com to see more.
If nobody has ever seen a KillerDock before, you need to check it out. And I tell you what's cool about KillerDock and what they're doing over there is they're constantly upgrading it and improving it. I mean, it's kind of like what we talk about with Power Pole.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Power Pole, every year you're getting something new on the same piece of equipment that is doing a great job, doesn't need to be improved at all.
Better and better.
But they're just
outperforming themselves.
That is how I feel about that. So I was on a customer of mine's, Doc, Chris Smith. He's got a light on his. I'm like, oh man, I gotta have a light on mine now. You know what I mean? And
now they're doing sinks. And,
oh
yeah.
When's it gonna end? When's it end? When's it gonna end?
It doesn't. That's a good thing about it.
Love those guys over there. Do a great job.
Not only do they, make an unbelievable product, they're just unbelievable people.
Yep.
And that's why I'm proud to be in business with them.
All right, Butch. Well, back to what did I learn today?
Yep.
I'll tell you the first part of the show, one thing I really noticed, and I hadn't noticed this in a while because he hasn't been around, but Joe Baya, that son of a gun likes to talk a lot for a Yankee.
Yeah, you're just now learning that? He likes to talk for sure. Yeah, we're apologizing if we went over this week, guys, but we got that Floridian involved.
Oh, my goodness gracious. He does like to talk, but he
at least has some pretty good stuff to say most of the time.
He did, and at least you and I on our computer screen got to see his pretty face the entire time he was talking. So
I'm not sure about pretty, but we got to see him anyway.
Hey man, I'm digging that little mustache thing he's got going on there, whatever you call that.
I'm not sure what you call that, but we still love you, Joe.
He sure has a pretty mouth.
That's right, and he likes to use it a lot.
Yeah, he does.
We're just kidding. We love you. It was good for the collaboration. It was fun.
Man, I enjoyed that. That was really cool.
Me too.
I miss Joe.
Man, I think this week, not to steal your thunder, I asked you what'd you learn, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I learned. Bait. Make bait. Doesn't matter how much time it takes. I know we've said it before, but I don't care if it's redundant. It's applicable for right now. Make your bait. Doesn't matter how long it takes, and keep it alive. Like you're saying, your tip was, it's hot as heck, man. You got to figure out how to catch it and how to keep it alive.
That's right. That's right. We run into this period every year, and I kind of feel like we've already been in it for a little while. But the bait starts to get plentiful. All these shrimp start to get around and just as far as my world goes on the inshore stuff, man, fish get a little picky. You know what I mean? It's about to get real. I mean, it's hot, but it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Do you think we're just getting old and sissies, or do you think it's getting hotter around here?
Man,
I don't remember it being this hot.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you. I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good hot meter. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And
I like Captain Bobby calls it the Captain Bobo meter for hot and cold.
Oh man,
hot.
The Captain Bobo meter. I hadn't heard that one yet.
That's a good one.
That's a real good one. I bet he freestyled that one.
He did actually on a report.
Oh yeah.
He was talking about wade fishing and getting in the water when it was cold. He said, "I let the Captain Bobo meter tell me if I need waders or not."
Man, I tell you what.
It's hot.
About the week before the Young Anglers tournament, or right before Rodeo, I'm talking about. I felt it. You know what I mean? It was like.
Go through 3 or 4 shirts in a day because it's wet.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. It's to the point now where it was to the past couple of days haven't been so bad, but it's like it's to the point now where you can't drink enough water when you're outside on the boat doing whatever. It's unbelievably hot. It was, and at Rodeo, it was just golly, and golly, I hope it lets up a little bit soon. Maybe
it'll probably be a little while, man. We are in South Alabama.
Yep. I don't know. It's definitely a hot summer.
Amen, brother.
I'm not the only one fussing.
No, you're not. I hate to be a
we are not the only one fussing. Yeah.
Well, man, like I said, I really appreciate the co-host this week. We had a good time, and that's going to wrap it up. What's your books looking like, man? You want to book any more trips? What's folks got to do to get in touch with you?
So my August is
coming up.
What's that?
It's a link fishing's coming up.
Yep, that's right. I'm already booking a bunch of trips for that, actually. man, just seeing the run that came up, I think it's going to be a really, really good year for this fall fishery that I've figured out. So I'm thinking it's going to be a lot of fun. But I have plenty of openings. That usually doesn't kind of kick off till about September or so, and I have plenty of openings in August. I'm about probably 2 weeks out on a available date right now. So if anybody wants to book a trip, hit me up at coldbloodedfishing.com. Hit me up on my Facebook page, Instagram. I do all the grams and
all the social medias.
Yeah.
Well, it was a good time, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. As always, like I said, I thoroughly enjoy the podcast, being a contributor and a co-host and everything. This is a great thing we got going on.
It's been fun, man. I look forward to growing it, and I look forward to many more years to come, many more episodes.
Come on.
All right, guys. You guys, please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, head over to greatdaysoutdoors.com/ASFR, and we'll send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them. We'll talk to you next week.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Daycool Heating and Air, your home performance specialists. Contact them at 251-260-3858 or check them out online at www.daycoolair.com. License number AL07028.
Also brought to you by Coastal Conservation Association of Alabama. Check them out at ccaalabama.org.
And also Fishbites. Fishbites stay on the hook longer than any natural bait. Check them out at fishbites.com.
Also brought to you by Advanced Transmission in Spanish Fort. Give the professionals a call who have been trusted on the Gulf Coast for over 25 years at 251-626-6061 or check them out online at www.advanced-transmission.com.
This week's Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Angelo Depaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty, your boating and beach property specialist. Check me out on Facebook at Angelo Depaola Realtor, the Coastal Connection, or call me direct at 850-287-3440.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by me, Joe Baya, and National Land Realty. If I can help you in any way with the purchase or sale of land in Alabama or Florida, whether it's timberland, farmland, recreational land like hunting land, or even agricultural land or ranch land like horse farm, drop me a message at jbaya@nationalland.com. That's JBAYA at nationalland.com.
This is Captain Richard Rutland, and this report is brought to you by Cold Blooded Fishing. You can find us at www.coldbloodedfishing.com.